serious. Redditors who regularly travel around the world in ships or boats, what is something strange or haunting that you have witnessed while out at sea and still cannot explain? I spent 7 years sailing a boat around the Caribbean. I sailed alone 90% of the time. Not too many weird things, to be honest. Whales got too close for comfort a few times. I had auditory hallucinations several times due to sleep deprivation. Downside to sailing solo, that was always a bit scary. Weirdest was sailing between BVI and St. Martin. Moonless night, pitch black, total flat calm, flat seas or air in that area. The ocean lit up with what I could only assume was some sort of glowing jellyfish. These globes in the water would flash bright green for a second, then vanish. Hundreds of them. And they were not small, several feet in diameter. This lasted for about 30 minutes. It was beautiful and surreal. Never saw anything before or since like it in over 20,000 miles of open ocean sailing. On deployment, observed a fireball in the Indian Ocean, 100% convinced it was a larger meteor, but it remained solid until it disappeared and it abruptly angled like it hit something, albeit at a very shallow angle. When I say fireball, I mean fireball, not a shooting star, like you can see on a typical dark night not in the city. I do travel to the UK and Scotland a lot, and I take a ferry to mainland Europe, and I decided I head out to the deck to get some fresh air and see if I could get a good signal to contact my family. I get out there and it's dark and everything is normal, and all of a sudden the boat slammed something hard and flung me to the deck, and I remember my vision getting fuzzy and there being a loud bang again. I thought we hit a ferry. I ran up to the command deck because my friend was the captain and he said they don't know what happened. He said there was no leaks or fires. They had a medic come and check on me because my head was bleeding from the fall. We made it the mainland and I got off, looked at the boat and noticed there was a big dent in the hull. My friend said we probably hit apes of whales, but I've never known whales to cause that big of a dent. When I was in the Navy, I was stationed on a cruiser, and that ship was certainly haunted. More than once I shared a smoke late at night with someone vaguely familiar, but no one knew who I was talking about, and the description didn't match anyone. We never really talked other than mention the quality of the seas at the time. It's a nice night or looks like a storm is coming, and just watch the horizon or the night sky. A couple times commenting on the constellations that were out. Never anything malevolent, but a little unnerving when I could never find that dude and people thought I was too sleep deprived. Growing up, my family had a cottage on a small island in the Baltic Sea, off the coast of Sweden. This happened in the late 70s, during the Cold War, when Russian subs were often observed in Swedish territorial waters. Our island did have a military installation on it, and was off limits to foreigners. My dad and I were fishing from Grandpa's old wooden rowboat, just drifting along a couple of 100 yards offshore, when all of a sudden the head of a diver slowly rose to the surface a couple of yards off the side of the boat. He slowly turned around, spotted us and disappeared beneath the water again. We saw divers on several occasions, but never that close, and once we also saw the conning tower of a submarine. I don't regularly travel, but I swear to God that during a school field trip to Lake Michigan we went on this boat, and I turn around to look back at the city and I just see the shadow of a kid falling off the edge, and no one noticed or cared. I pointed it out, but my teacher disregarded it. Either I was hallucinating or something happened, cause after that I heard nothing about it. We would sometimes see lights out in the distance at night. I had a few people tell me that some of these lights were so bright that it felt like it was like the sun had come up. I haven't seen a light like that, but I have seen what looked like a plane flying at night. It would change directions and fly the other way. This happened 5 times in the span of about 2 minutes. This is something I cannot explain logically. How can something change directions that fast, at that speed, in that kind of movement? Oddest thing I have ever seen. Mostly voices, but like muffled and far away, so I didn't know what they were saying. This is alone on a boat with no land in sight. It wasn't scary in the sense I thought there were actually voices, but scary in the sense that I knew I was so tired I was hearing things that weren't there. Thus I feared for my safety, as I alone was responsible for operating the vessel and obviously not mentally well. In such situations I would usually do a maneuver called hove to, which is a way you can sort of park a sailboat at sea by backwinding the jib, then catch some quick sleep with alarm set on the radar in case another vessel approaches. I know the exact explanation. What I don't know it's how it's happened to me twice. I was driving a yacht as we were traveling to the Greek island of Milos. All was calm and nice until at one point we hear a loud bang which I felt through the steering wheel, and then the whole boat started shaking and engines weren't giving any acceleration. I drop anchor and turn of the engine and look behind us, and there was a huge pool of blood, so my theory about hitting a rock was out of the question. As I was putting up scuba gear to go check underneath the yacht for any holes, there weren't any. I saw pieces of a big sea turtle floating where the blood was, so we hit a fucking sea turtle. It's impossible to see them from the flybridge cause they are underwater, but it hit both propellers and fucked up the yacht. It's happened to me twice, which seems like impossible odds for being in the middle of the ocean. This happened when I was in the Navy back in the early 90s. We were sailing from Guam to Australia and were days away from land in every direction. I was standing aft lookout on the fantail and hadn't heard anything over the sound powered phone about any sighted contacts. I'm looking over the starboard side when I see us pass a red light no more than 100 feet away. I try to call it into the bridge, but my phone isn't working. In the 10 seconds it took me to swap my phone to another connection and look back up, the light was gone. This was a single solitary red light. No green light and no white lights, so it didn't appear to me to be a boat or a sailing vessel. To this day, I can't explain what it was or why the phone stopped working. A sound-powered phone doesn't use power, it uses sound to work. I was in a 40-some foot boat in my teens. I know next to nothing about ships, but I commuted by boat almost every day, so I've been on them a fair amount. This was in Lake Superior, where I never knew the waves to be very big, and they would usually cancel the ride if that were the case. One day, we had a single massive wave come out of nowhere and nearly flip us over. It was taller than our boat and wrenched everyone. But I had been looking in the direction where it hit, and there was nothing. Just a momentary 15-foot wall of water which hit us, and the lake was calm again. Thanks for watching. Consider liking and subscribing. Peace.